Mr. Secretary. It seems to me that Senator Feinstein's raised some issues we need to pursue. The EATR decision, it may be a nice thing to participate in, but we have real pressing budget priorities here that we're going to have a hard time meeting. And we're counting on you with your background and to help us make a correct decision of that, not just whether it's something that might be nice, but whether it's more important than the other options that we have to fund. Number two, if we want, that $674 million is a problem. You know that, I know that. And if you really think you want to use some of that $1.8 billion to help pay for it, then we need to get resolved the authority to do that.
So we will follow your suggestion about
Okay.
presenting some language.
Yep. And three, Senator Feinstein and I both want to continue a deliberate focus on MOX. We've discussed it in depth before. I mean, when we dealt with the uranium facility, we had a red team to take a look at it. It came back with a recommendation. We adopted the recommendation. We have a cap of $6.5 billion and a date of 2025, and we have a path toward getting there. And so we've resolved that. The MOX is a different kind of problem. You've recommended that we switch from one way of dealing with the plutonium to another. Your red team, a separate red team, told us basically that the cost might save us $500 billion a year.
$500 million.
$500 million a year. Get my B's and M's.
Right.
$500 million a year. Might be that much.
It may be $600 or $700 million, actually.
Yeah. So you're saying it could be $500 to $700 or $800 million a year for many years. Might be the difference in spending. So we have an obligation to the taxpayer to address that question and to do it promptly. I think you're correct to try to address it in the budget, and we need to take sufficient time to deal with it. We know that requires a discussion with Russia. We know that we have to have a place to put the plutonium. We also know that there is a place to put the plutonium today as soon as WIP opens, which you would expect to be later this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, initial operation.
The initial operation. There's a backlog of material to go to WIP, and the South Carolina plutonium would have to get in line. But my understanding is that all 13 tons of plutonium that are now in South Carolina could go into the WIP facility once it reopens without changing the law and adding new land. Is that correct?
Correct.
But that still leaves open the question of what to do about the entire 34 tons that we're obligated to deal with, and what about an agreement with Russia? So the Senator Graham and others are right to want an answer to that, but the taxpayers are going to know from us, why are we spending $500, $800 million a year on something that when we could have saved that much money, if that's true, and when we have very pressing other needs, for example, cleaning up uranium enrichment, clean energy investment, the Office of Science Investments. So I will be working with Senator Feinstein and Senator Graham and others who are interested to set up a scheduled discussion to permit us to deal with the MOX issue on a deliberate basis.
Good, great. And I'm certainly happy to work with you on that.
Well, the hearing record will remain open for 10 days. Members may submit additional information or questions for the record within that time if they would like. The subcommittee requests all responses to questions for the record to be provided within 30 days of receipt. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today. The subcommittee will